This is an episode from the archives. I wanted to re-air it for those who are new subscribers to That's Total Mom Sense. And for those of you who have heard it before, I'm sure you'll glean new insights from our conversation. Listen in. There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda-Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our Mom Sense and Dad Sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda-Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Calling all parents, raising the AI generation. We may as well term WWW, that we know stands for World Wide Web, as the Wild Wild West. I'm old enough to remember when the internet became a mainstream global phenomenon during the good old days of dial-up and keyword search. And now our children are native users from birth. How do we help them navigate the digital world using its plethora of tools to further their knowledge, academic research, and connectivity without becoming susceptible to the dangers lurking online? I'm your host, Kanika Chadda-Gupta. I'm a television journalist and founder of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. And most importantly, I'm a wife and mother of 3. Through my interviews and exposés, my mission is to give credit where it's often overlooked: the undeniable impact of parenting on society, following our dharma, our life purpose, and modeling that for the next generation so they can learn from our mistakes and create a better world. I am honored to be joined by Aura partner and thought leader, Roo Powell. She is also a devoted mother of 3 and is the founder of SOSA, which stands for Safe from Online Sex Abuse, a nonprofit raising awareness and combating online child sex abuse and exploitation. Her past work, which spans all forms of media, reflect her passion and advocacy for human rights, covering sex trafficking, poverty, race relations, and child wellness. Roo, thank you so much for joining us today. I have done so much research on you and your work, and you truly are a hero at the front lines. And I want everyone tuning in to know just exactly what you do at SOSA and how you're helping families save lives.
Thank you so much. So SOSA combats the sex abuse and exploitation of children online and in real life. And we do this in a number of ways. What we're probably most known for is partnering with law enforcement and working with them hand in hand to conduct undercover operations in order to find perpetrators of abuse.
I've watched your documentary style show, Undercover Underage, which is so gripping and gut-wrenching because you actually are a decoy where you become a young girl who's 11 or 13 or 15 and are interacting with these predators in real life.
Yeah, so we have, we've got some great tricks that we use in order to de-age me, and we create these homes that look like there are, a teenage girl's bedroom, and there's a lot of context and a lot of things that we do, in conjunction with law enforcement in order to do an effective operation. There's a lot there. We also work in other ways where we advocate for better legislation, and we pair survivors up with trauma-informed therapists, and we talk with schools and parents and caregivers. But what we're best known for is our undercover work.
You are a mom, and I feel like every single time a perpetrator sends you a salacious message or a photo or something like that, I mean, it's sickening to think about that this could be my daughter or son in this situation, and you have to forge ahead and capture them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, yes. I mean, thinking about that is always rough. And then you realize that it is happening to our young people, right? There are plenty of times that, a neighbor will call and say, can you give me some advice? This just happened to my kid. It's happening all over, irrespective of gender, of sexuality, of socioeconomic status. There's a lot of extortion happening online. So I really hesitate when parents say, not my kid, or when parents say, well, I keep a close watch on social, or I don't really let them have access. I still would encourage them to really learn up about what's happening online, because even if it's not, even like, let's say your kid is 6 years old and does not have a smartphone. Well, your kid is going on a play date, or soon your kid's going to be getting a school issued laptop, and then the list goes on. So knowing about the internet, irrespective of your parenting style, I still think is really important.
Aura has shared that according to the CDC, kids ages 11 through 14 spend an average of 9 hours online a day. That is roughly 40% of the day, and they still have school and sports and have to sleep at some point. But on Aura, we can limit screen time usage through parental controls. So it could be, this is how much time you get on weekdays versus weekends. You don't get access after 9 p.m., whatever it may be. But let's talk about how kids in general are spending way more time online these days.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you and I did not grow up with smartphones. And even if you don't want to give your kids a smartphone now, they're still doing homework online. Each of my kids has a school issued device where they are getting their assignments online and they're submitting them online. And it's just kind of part of what this generation has, just part of it's ingrained in childhood now.
Yes, 100%. We use Google Classroom. I mean, even we're emailing teachers. It's just how we do things. Then let's talk general online safety. How has the landscape of online safety for children changed in recent years?
Yeah, it's so different now. I mean, I grew up with AOL dial-up, and maybe an AOL chat room here or there, but you and I didn't grow up with smartphones in our hands where we're constantly checking in or communicating, or even now I find myself, I'm at the grocery store, I'm standing in line, I'm doing this with my phone. And so no wonder for kids too, it's just kind of a part of their day to day. And I think technology is great. I think it affords us access to things that are happening around the world, and it gives kids the ability to learn things and learn about different cultures and the news and lots of things. But there's also a downside to it. There are also these dangers that come along with it. And you see anything from bullying to what we work with at SOSA is the online sex abuse and exploitation of children, and grooming, which grooming sounds like a nice word. It sounds like you're just tweezing your eyebrows, but grooming really means manipulating kids. And this is happening online. So now we don't have to just worry about who is in the direct vicinity of a kid, right? Our parents were only worried about, people that were local to us. Now we have to worry about adults that are multiple states away, because all of a sudden they have what they didn't used to have, which is access to our kids.
Yes, 100%. What are some of the biggest online threats that kids face?
I think the biggest danger that kids are facing online is the threat of abuse and exploitation. And that might sound like something that feels really, really far away, but I promise that if you've got a kid online, they've either experienced it or they have friends that have, because it is so prolific.
Yes, there's 5.5 billion internet users. And so the odds of running into some sort of danger is really high. So oftentimes, as parents, we are really actively involved and we think, that can't be my kid. My kid's not going to fall victim to this. And that is such a myth. There's many misconceptions that come with it. What are some of the key misconceptions that you faced in your day-to-day?
I think that some of those key misconceptions include well, if something is wrong, I'm going to be able to spot it. I'll totally know that something strange is going on. or that there are good apps and bad apps, safe apps and unsafe apps, or that, only a certain age range is affected. So it's just teens and it's not, tweens or younger or even small children like toddlers and under. I think those are probably the main misconceptions. Also around gender, like only girls are targeted. I think too that especially in 2024, where we're all sharing and sometimes oversharing online, there's this misconception that as long as a child isn't a teenager, that perhaps they are not going to be targeted in some way. And I even encourage friends or people to not post photos of their babies. And I know that seems dark and maybe a little bit ridiculous, but we find that people are looking for pictures of toddlers and infants as well. And you guys can stop me. I can give you a dark what do you call it, example, and then you can cut it out if you want. But, I've had to go undercover as somebody, as a bad guy too. So as somebody who is purchasing some really awful material, and I will go undercover as a buyer and I'll say, hey, do you have content? And they're like, yeah, you mean CP? And CP obviously stands for child pornography. And then I go, yeah, what ages? And they're like, all right, I've got ages 1 to 16.
What?
And of course that's shocking. What do you mean 1? What do you mean 2? What do you mean anything under a specific age? But bad guys, but these perpetrators are looking for content of children, and there is no bar. There is no age bar. There is no age limit. The bar's in hell, And
right.
So when people are like so excited and they're sharing pictures of babies, I'm like, is your Facebook locked down? Is your Instagram private? Do you know who you're friends with online? Because perpetrators are looking for things that you think are just so innocuous, but they're looking for bath time photos, potty training photos, like cute at the beach photos, running around in a sprinkler photos. That's the kind of content that they are looking for online. So if you're a parent and you've got young children and you're so eager to share really adorable content, by all means do, but like with family that you really trust, not necessarily the whole world. I get really concerned when I'm on TikTok or Instagram and it's images and videos of really small children and you see how many times something was saved. Why are people saving it so many times? Is it for innocuous purposes only? Is it just because it's a cute baby, or is it because there's something darker there?
Right. And I think that's how we should all think and be vigilant about, because the minute that it's posted online, it's there forever. And if someone wanted to follow your baby's account through the years, they could do that. And that's something that, my husband and I made a really conscious decision about, because I have 3 kids, twins, and a younger one that I had within 18 months. So I had 3 little ones running around. And, I remember, as many of us do, I took the monthly photos leading up to their first birthday. And I posted those on social media channels. And it was at my twins' first birthday that we talked about how, what if they actually resent us for doing this? When they're applying for a job or when they're old enough to make their own profiles, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up and be upset with us saying, why did you post this embarrassing photo of me at 2 years old? So that's kind of why we decided to stop sharing. And so much so, I mean, even with like their media releases at school, we were like, we don't want them on websites. Like, we want to just protect their identity. And when they have the agency to decide that they want to be featured on something, they can decide that.
It's interesting that you say this, because I've been a part of the Mom2 community for a really long time, because I was blogging and I had kids really young, really close in age. I had like 3 and under, and I was posting about them and sharing and writing. Like, it was a great outlet for me. And I was writing about being a parent, and I was writing about raising kids, and I was sharing photos. And then at some point, as I got further along in my work, there was one day that I just went, no, I'm done. And I just shut it all down. And I created a separate Instagram account that was just for like my mom and my siblings and people that, I know for sure, and they know me for sure. And yeah, it was a big move for me, especially because at the time, like I had this website and I had lots of people who, knew my kids' names and how old they were, and they thought they were so cute. And of course, like there's this element of like you're bringing joy and you're bringing relatability and you're sharing as a mom. And I still think that there's room for that for sure. But for me, that evolution has changed probably because I know too much.
Yeah, I can see that. And there's just a need to be aware. That's all that it is. Like, know what you're doing and be mindful about it. I want to double click on a few of the other things that you shared. So, how many of us think there's the bad apps, and it's usually the social media ones that we're like, oh, is it the Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, where they're most susceptible. But you say, no, it's actually.
I am such a bummer. I'm such a children. I ruin people's days when I say this. Yeah. I don't really consider there to be like good apps and bad apps. Any app where there's a possibility to communicate can be used to harm a child in some way. So I remember I remember posing as a teenage girl, and I was communicating with this perpetrator, and the perpetrator said, "I'm not really comfortable texting you. I'm worried that someone's going to find out what I've been saying to you. Can we communicate on a makeup app? Is there a makeup app that we can both download?" And you can Google it too. Like it's been on Words with Friends. Like we've seen it on Words with Friends, coloring book apps. And I know I just ruined a bunch of parents' days by saying that, but I was, at SOSA, we were communicating with one company that has a coloring book app, and they're like, "We'd really like for your help because we're dealing with a child predator issue on our coloring book app." And so, yeah, where there's a chance to communicate, the games that are catered to young people or the cuter, super innocuous seeming apps, if there's a way to communicate, there's a way to abuse.
Yes. And that's just basically having a chat function. So even in gaming, it's the Roblox and the Minecrafts and all that.
Yeah, I can give you a quick example. So my daughter was younger and she was online, and it was a cute like Pictionary type game where you're drawing and other people are guessing, and there's like this chat box at the side, and there's nothing like, there's no profile that you click on, there's no DMing, there's no like direct message or private message, but there's a chat box where people are going, "It's a stegosaurus," or it's a building, it's a mug of coffee. And someone goes, "Hey, I just got new puppies. And if you want to see a picture of them, why don't you add me on Discord?" Or, "Does anyone here have Instagram?" Or, "Hey, who else is on, like, does anyone else have, like, let me DM you?" Or, "Is anyone on TikTok? Who's got Snap?" And so you realize, like, okay, all of these people are talking, and okay, that is a way that they are attempting to, move them to another platform, but communicate nonetheless. Or kids will make their usernames on a gaming platform the same username as their social media. And lots of perpetrators will do that too. So like, if your username is Kanika plays video games, then maybe it'll be the same on Instagram or Snap or Discord or what have you.
There are an estimated 500,000 predators actively engaging online every day. The FBI has found that over 50% of the victims of sexual exploitation are between the ages of 12 to 15 years old. And they are highly skilled in how they lure these young kids in. And so I want you to tell us some of the tactics they use, just so we're aware.
Yeah, I would say that, a lot of times it just starts off as being a really innocuous conversation. And that's what we see. And we've conducted lots of these ops, and the conversations are, "Hi, how are you?" And it seems innocuous. And frankly, if you're a parent just looking at a conversation first glance, it also just seems innocuous. Sometimes they're pretending to be young. Sometimes they're pretending to be other like teenage girls that are just trying to befriend your kid, which is, we can put a pin in this for later, but this is also why I don't one of the rules in my household is you don't talk to someone that you don't know in real life, that you've met in person, face to face, not just someone's friend of a friend or someone's cousin who goes to another school somewhere,
Yeah.
And I would say that a lot of times their tactics don't necessarily seem unnerving until you go down the line a little bit. And they, so for example, they will try to get a kid to say yes to a bunch of really innocuous things. And an example is like, hey, Kanika, could you take a picture of what you're wearing to school today? All right, that's pretty normal. Okay, so you send the picture. Oh, Kanika, could you take a picture of what you're eating for breakfast? Okay, and take a picture of, oh, you're walking your dog, take a picture of your dog. Or take a picture of your shoes. And then you just keep saying, or kids keep saying yes. You keep saying yes, 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 yes. Because it's like, in the moment, yeah, that's normal. Yeah, that's normal. And then all of a sudden they ask for something that feels off. But you've said yes so many times. And you've already established this like conversation, this relationship with this friend online that you're like, oh, and then they're like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a picture of you in your swimsuit. Come on, like it's, that's no big deal at all. And this very much this nurturing friendship kind of relationship, so many people are craving that. Of course it feels nice. Of course it feels like a safe or friendly thing to do. And so there might be a time where a kid goes, ooh, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But there's been so much grooming and encouragement that it's hard to say no.
Yes, yes. And you've mentioned in previous interviews how, maybe parents think that grooming takes many months. Like, one person is reaching out to their child on many different occasions. And that's actually not true. It takes 8 minutes to groom.
It can take such a short amount of time. It can be, you turn around to load your dishwasher. And by the time you're done, somebody has said so many things to your child and has really established themselves as a person that you can trust. And they'll say that. I want to be somebody that you can trust. I want to be like an older brother to you. I want to be someone that you can come to. I'll always have your back. All of those things, like in the context of what we know this to be, sound horrifying. But by themselves, like a friend saying, I'm always going to be here for you, sounds wonderful. It sounds welcoming. It sounds supportive. And it certainly doesn't sound creepy. With all of that in mind, I think it's important as parents and caregivers and communities that we're setting up structures and guardrails to help guard our children. What we find is that a lot of perpetrators will use photos of exploited children to get more photos of other children. So they'll do exactly that. Hey, I'm your age. You're so pretty. We should be friends. Like, this is so cool. You like to do this? I like to do this too. Using the same language, talking about the same hobbies. And they'll even say, oh, there's this really nice person who said that they'll give us, they'll Venmo us money if we just send cute photos of us smiling. And so, it's like one is fully cute photo. Listen, all you have to do is do poses just like I'm doing them. You do those poses too. And then we'll just send over and they'll Venmo us. But what they're doing is that it's these perpetrators who are sending photos of children who have already been exploited. Yeah. And you do the same because they're now collecting more photos of more exploited children.
Exactly.
So that is, and it's hard because I think even if you're somebody who's checking your kid's phone constantly, you see texts from somebody who is your daughter's peer, same age, using the same language, unless you're really digging deep, it's hard to know what to look for, which is why it's so important to have those conversations with your kids, because then your kids know what to look for. They're like, wait a minute, this isn't, mom just told me about something like this. Of course you want to, and it's so flattering. It's so flattering. Right. Like, oh my gosh, really? Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's not, I feel so badly when kids feel like they can't come forward and say what happened because there's so much like fear and shame there.
There's one more tactic they use that I just want you to shed light on, the numbers game.
The numbers game is something a perpetrator might use with a kid, and it's order to not just gain information, but to like build trust. So it's a series of questions, and there's a number that's associated with each question. And it kind of reads like an AOL forward from back in the day, like, oh, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite, snack? What do you like on your pizza? And so there are a lot of questions like that. And Kanika, if you and I were both looking at it, I would say number 3, and you would look at number 3, and I would say, what color are your eyes? And you would tell me. And but as you move further along and you're asking questions about, favorite food and how tall are you, the questions become more salacious in nature, like what's your bra size, or have you ever XYZ? Have you ever done this, sexual act? And then it gets further, like, would you ever with me, or do you ever think about me, or would you ever? And so then the questions are sexual and in nature, and in some cases illegal. But what I think is really interesting, what removes the grossness from it, is that they're not saying specifically what's your bra size. They're saying number 17. And you go to number 17, and it's not them asking, it's the questions game asking.
Questionnaire.
Yeah, it just happens to be there. So, okay, number 17. And for whatever reason, I feel like doing that takes away that yuck factor for some kids. And so that is a game too that I've told my kids know to avoid the numbers game. They know that's a red flag, although I'm sure in some cases it's still popular among children, just as AOL forwards were popular with us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I still remember the acronym ASL. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And when, my friends and I, this was when we were probably like 13, 14, and, AIM chat rooms were like booming. We would all by design pretend to be somebody else, and it was like such a fun thing, like going into this chat and like, we're going to be Susie from Oklahoma today. And, it's just, so yeah, it's crazy how things have evolved, and now they're just far more.
Well, ASL, age, sex, location, is still being used in 2024, which is wild. But that question still comes up too, ASL.
Another thing that we do is we have a contract, and it's, very elementary at this point. But even kids know how much screen time is too much, because then they like everything's haywire and they go a little nuts. And so, even my 5-year-old knows that, like, okay, after 4 shows, like, I'm good. That's 2 hours. Like I'm good. I don't need to watch any more Pokemon after that. And so, yeah, it's like knowing that, okay, well then that's what we're putting in the contract. Like, you're not going to click on that 5th show because your time's up. That's all you're getting. And that's way more than you get during the school year, because it's summertime. And Aura has settings for this within, its software, which is great. You can go onto the app, and they actually can't like watch anymore. If it's like on YouTube Kids, for instance, it will just turn off when the time limit's up, which then it's like, there's no yelling, there's no struggle. Like, we agreed that this is the time frame you have, and it's going to turn off. And
it's Aura's fault, or just turn it off.
Yeah, it's so true. What are some practical takeaways for summer safety online?
Well, I would say that what parents and caregivers can say at nighttime, charge devices in a common space. So I know a lot of us will do the phone on the nightstand, and teens and kids might do that too. But instead, if you put all of that in one spot, maybe it's on the kitchen counter, or you have one of those charging stations that's in the living room. But that way, nobody's poking around online overnight, where honestly, a lot of the more treacherous stuff happens. But putting it in a common space, I think, is a really good, just general safety practice. Another one is, let's say your child wants to download a specific app. You download the same app too, so you know the features on it. So, for example, like Snapchat, what some parents might not know is Snapchat has a parent safety feature on it. So I can't read all of my kids' messages on Snap, but I can go on it and I can see everyone they've spoken with in the past week. And I know, okay, yeah, this is her lab partner. This is the next door neighbor. And that's just a great way for me to stay involved in what she's doing. Same with, like, let's say your kid wants to download a gaming app. all right, well, you can download the gaming app. What are the features? What are the things that cause you concern? What are the things that are confusing? So I think knowing what your kids want to download is a great summer safety tip. I think that having just like no screen time moments is great, just because getting away from the devices for a period of time, it is good. I remember in the summer, I would watch a lot of movies. I was like, my grandparents would watch me over the summer, and I wasn't doing any camp. So I was watching like Three Ninjas and eating macaroni and cheese, and then watching The Sound of Music in the afternoon. And it was probably too much screen time for me then. And I think like a lot of like Snapchat or TikTok is probably too much screen time for our kids too. So having some screen time boundaries, whether that's via the app or using something like a lockbox, is really smart too. Another thing I don't know if your kids do sleepovers, and some folks are pro sleepover or anti sleepover. I allow kids to sleep over at my house. But what I do during those sleepovers, I let the parents know, hey, after 10:30 p.m., all of the phones are going to go into the kitchen. They can come text you or call you or whatever they need to do. It's not like I'm blocking your kids' access to their phone. It's just that anyone who wants to use their phone, they're going to use it in the kitchen, because I don't want, kids late at night, phones. It just feels like a recipe for disaster.
So what resources, whether it be websites or books or courses, do you recommend for parents to stay informed about online safety?
I think following SOSA on Instagram is great. We've got some resources online. We share some good, bites of information and tips, and even some cases too that can just give you some insight into how things are happening or how things are operating online. NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they've got lots of really good internet resources, and a lot of it is age specific too. I know that we talked about that. I would say follow SOSA on Instagram. We've got some great bite-sized information for families, also some cases that I think could give really good insights to parents and caregivers. And then also a couple websites, including Aura's digital parenthood website. NCMEC is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a Net Smarts course for young kids too.
That's great. And to add to that, I would say definitely subscribe to Aura's YouTube channel. That's where you can watch tutorials on how to download and actually navigate the parental controls. You can find out what your digital parenting persona is. And for me, I am the digital shield parent, which means that I take a very proactive stance on digital safety and how I'm kind of protecting my kids online. And that's accurate because they are sub 7 years old. It'll give you an understanding of how you are as a parent and maybe what you could improve on and learn from. Thank you all so much for watching our in-depth conversation today. Roo, you are a hero. Thank you for your service to our community of parents and families in protecting our children. This conversation isn't intended to be fear-mongering or parent-shaming in any way. Knowledge is power, and we want you to be aware of what goes on in the digital landscape. Our kids are living with AI and are going to take technology to new heights, so we have to be vigilant and plugged in. You can follow Aura on its social channels at Aura_protects. Roo can be found at Roo_Powell and at SOSA together. And my handle is Kanika Chadda-Gupta, and that's Total Momsense on all social channels. We are all in this together, aren't we, Roo?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Aura and Mom too for hosting this conversation.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Momsense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Momsense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is at Kanika Chadda-Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at that'stotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Momsense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.